Akari, in Sochi. That thing you see behind me is the Fished Olympic Stadium. A couple hours before kickoff, Spain and Portugal. I think it's fair to say probably the biggest game thus far in the tournament, or certainly of the first set of matches. Spain, of course, rocked by the shock news of Julian Lopetegui leaving, Fernando Hierro taking over. There's been a lot of acrimony, a lot of bile about the decision to send him away after he, of course, agreed terms with Real Madrid. We'll see how it affects the team. I kind of get the sense, having been at the presser yesterday, that these guys are veterans, they're grown up, they're big boys, they're not going to be affected by it. But you do wonder, Sergio Ramos certainly giving the impression that he knew well before Rubiales knew. In fact, he came out, he said, well, sometimes a captain knows more than other people. So watch this space. Personally, I feel good about Spain. They remain my pick. I did have one point to make, though, on Cristiano Ronaldo. I ran the numbers. His scoring record in major tournaments, not good. Roundabout, I think, 12 goals in 34. Amazingly, and that's major tournaments, we mean, of course, Euros and World Cups. Amazingly, out of the teams that are actually at this World Cup, he's only scored once against them. That was against Iran way back in 2006, and that was a penalty. Now, you can read this two ways. Either it means that Cristiano is not a big game player and a guy who shirks away when the pressure is on, doesn't take the responsibility. But come on, we know that's not the case. Or you can take it as simply it's chance, it's luck, it's happenstance, and he's going to regress to the mean and score bundles of goal in this World Cup. I choose the latter. I kind of feel maybe this is where Cristiano gets his major tournament scoring average back in line with his scoring average for the Portuguese national team and, of course, for Real Madrid at club level. We'll see. Time will tell. Kickoff coming up very, very soon.
On paper, you looked at Spain against Portugal and you thought, yeah, this should be a decent game. Boy, did it live up to that and maybe even exceed expectations. 3-3. In the end, Cristiano Ronaldo, the hero.
Well, not like it's a big stage or anything, really.
He loves it.
You might enjoy the adulation, but, I mean, fair play. The older he gets, I think sometimes just the better he gets. He had a youngster doing the running around about him for a lot of the game. But for credit Portugal, because they haven't got the talent level that Spain's have, but boy, are they a gritty side.
It was fun to watch, wasn't it?
We saw great goals as well. Don't forget Nacho's goal.
Yep.
I mean, you won't see a better strike than that. I think Spain had lots of dominance of possession for long periods, but as Craig said, Portugal stuck in there, and they've got a world-class player that every time he touched the ball looks like he might score a goal.
No question, at the full-time whistle, it's Portugal who'll be the happier of the two sides.
Yeah, and you can't possibly talk about this game without mentioning David De Gea. Once Spain got back into the game and it was 1-1 after a great goal by Diego Costa, Spain, they had all the possession. They had the control of the game. And then De Gea makes the mistakes, and it forces Spain to now have to come back. Now they come back, are able to get themselves up once again with a tremendous goal by Nacho, as you just mentioned, 3-2. But you cannot commit that foul. Gerard Piqué, top of the 18-yard box. Now the execution by Ronaldo was perfection. It really was the beginning of the World Cup today with that match and that performance. And the individual performance of Diego Costa that then was outmatched by the individual performance of Cristiano Ronaldo. What a great game.
You'd be a brave man, wouldn't you, to bet on neither of these sides making it through to the knockout stages? Seems superior to the other teams that we saw, of course, Iran with that victory over Morocco earlier today.
Yeah, I would think so. I'm surprised, actually, Iran beat Morocco. No. Looking at the way those two played, looking at the players they've got, even Portugal, a lot of talented players, not as many as Spain, but no, I don't see an issue for either of these two.
You've been flip-flopping with regards to Spain over the last few days.
Yeah.
You had them win the World Cup, then you didn't.
Yeah.
From what you saw today...
They look as though they're focused. They didn't have a good start to the game. David De Gea made a mistake, but apart from that, they played some wonderful football, some of their passing. When they were 3-2 up, it didn't look as though Portugal were going to get the ball back. A couple of changes, and you have to give credit to the Portugal coach. He changed it, got Quaresma on. They started to have a bit more attacking play, but I think Spain look a good side still.
Going to win the World Cup?
No, they're still going to be
Right,
runners up to
so
Brazil.
you've gone back.
I've gone back, and they're still going to be Brazil.
You've gone back on that.
I look at the Spanish national team that, yes, it was a slow start, but I think I would be encouraged in the sense that we thought that if something went wrong for them early in this game, there would be a lot of finger pointing, and then maybe they wouldn't react. We were curious to see what their reaction was. Well, the reaction was very positive. They came back twice, and then they should have won the game, unable to close it out. That's disappointing. But in the big picture, I still think that Spain is certainly going to be a major player in the tournament.
Plenty more reaction to this game, of course, with our show on ESPN Plus tonight, where we'll not only be talking about this match, but the other games today, plus looking ahead to those other games tomorrow. We are with you 7 days a week throughout the World Cup. We're always very keen to hear from you and more than happy to answer your questions over on Extra Time. We sometimes get a bit waylaid, as is normally demonstrated by Best of the Week. We've been in the studio for a very long time today.
Yep.
So who knows what this could deliver.
Yep. We're getting a reputation for being a bit of a bully.
No, I
Shout
didn't.
at Gab yesterday, shout at the sound man today.
But maybe your priority should be on the World Cup, which is about to start. Maybe you don't worry about Real Madrid.
This is your one chance to manage Real Madrid. They come knocking.
He's coaching the Spanish national team. It doesn't get any bigger than that.
Tell you what,
If the Spain job was so important, why would he turn down and rip up his contract?
3 days before the World Cup, yes, it's Spain. The Spain national team job, yes, is bigger than Real Madrid.
Where was the tattoo?
That's the thing. He told me he had it, but he couldn't show me because I think it was on his buttocks.
Am I allowed to touch this, or is it all you?
No, you touch these bits now.
Okay, all right, okay.
Luis Suarez is the best striker in the world, according to you.
I think he's as good as any.
You find any of this?
Not a whole lot.
There we go.
Referees who are going to be using the VAR are going to be in their full kit.
I can just all imagine them getting in this truck.
Would he check the studs?
Operation
the
room.
truck.
Give us a double. Yes.
2 of those. That's what they've
Two
been
of
doing.
those.
But they've got to go the other way as well.
To Belgium.
Yeah.
I ate everything going. I didn't think I was playing. I had pancakes, bacon,
The whole
everything.
shebang.
That was my pre-World Cup warm-up.
Did you play well?
Went all right.
If you see it offside, you put your flag up, and if you're not sure, you don't put your flag up anyway. They were doing that 20 years ago, by the way. Hold on a second. Oh, am I missing something here?
Probably.
Seriously?
Never known somebody get so upset about a flag going up. I'm not.
It's complete typical nonsense. You know, people outside the game just sticking their nose
Well,
in,
I tell you
saying
what.
something just for the sake of
It's like Colleen, is
How
that?
many questions is this?
What?
Is it just the one question, or are we?
No, we got,
is
a
it
couple,
multiple?
we got a couple more. What's your thoughts on the knighthood of King Kenny?
Absolutely.
Seriously, how stupid is that? How can you knight a king? Steve's getting one. It'll be for services to beer and food.
You
I've
expect
got a month for this, Ali. Try to explain to this muppet.
Wait. Why am I a Muppet? They're 6 favourites to win the World Cup, and yet you want them to go and beat the favourite.
Were Greece going to win the Euros? Were Germany going to beat Brazil by 7 goals to 1 in the semi-final? These things can happen.
The point is, if you lose to Brazil, your tournament isn't a flop.
As if you get battered by Brazil. I mean, honestly, I'm not going to be able to put up with you for a month.
Well, I just don't know where your floppy levels are.
I spent about an hour in the concessions line. I didn't see any of the game. All I heard was cheering.
Good stuff. Top-notch analysis out of you. All I saw was the back of a bunch of heads, so you didn't miss much being in the fan fest.
Within a fan fest, you need a backpack. You've got to mix in with the locals.
you guys gonna keep this going after the show's over?
I hope not.
I hope so.
It's cute.
Why? Oh, why have you done that?
Well, that's what my job is, to ask why. Day 2 of the World Cup.
Yeah. All month to come.
We're only at day 2. There we are. How many matches down?
4 games tomorrow.
4. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
You're off.
Yeah, golf will be on.
There you go. Wouldn't make a difference if you were on. You look at it from the Egypt perspective, no Mohamed Salah. Interesting thoughts coming from the coach afterwards, suggesting that they just couldn't risk his shoulder.
Well, he was basically saying we're just resting it all on the two, the second.
Yeah, the 2 games. He came out and he said we were quite certain in the training session that he would be able to play. At the end of the training session, he was examined by the doctor, and there was some doubt. If he fell or he was hit by another player, we thought he might get another injury. So we decided not to take that risk. We want to be sure that we can have him on top form against Russia and Saudi Arabia. It doesn't seem that big a time period between now and the next game, 3 days, isn't it?
3 days.
To then suddenly everything's going to be all right again?
Not in 3 days. Maybe a week. Anyway, we talked about it yesterday, saying this is what he might do. He might not forfeit the Uruguay game, but maybe go without him, just try and dog it out, which they almost did for a point, but it didn't work out. So
apparently it's 5 days. That's my mistake.
Yeah, I was sorry, because when I was thinking that, I was thinking, I'm sure we got more rest in between games back in 1990.
Time zones.
We go and enjoy ourselves a little bit in between the games. But yeah, so he's got 5 days. But anyway, he's put everything now in the one pot.
Right.
He's saying we're targeting the Russia and the Saudi Arabia games, and that's the way we're going to do it.
We're disappointed he didn't play, but I think there's more to it. I'm not sure he is going to play in the next game. If they are saying that he's not fit for this game, how can you then be fit 5 days later? I mean, I think he's got a bigger problem than that.
But we talked before, Ali made the point that Uruguay, are a rough team, you know what you're going to get from them. So maybe he is literally wrapping him in cotton wool.
He's got to play him. But by that statement, he has to play him, because in that statement he said, if he gets knocked over or hit by another player, so the injury's not going to... There is no injury problem unless he is physically getting in an issue with a player and he goes down. That might not happen.
Unfortunately, football's a contact game, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's a World Cup. They haven't been to one since God knows how long. He might never be back at one again. There is no injury unless he hits the ground, and then it's a maybe. He has to play.
And they were saying that they made the decision, not him.
What is clear is that he wasn't right to play. Because if there was any chance for him to be on the field, this game actually had all the opportunities for him to come on. When Uruguay was pushing forward, they knew they needed the 3 points. They deserved the 3 points. They were getting after. All of a sudden, Godin is taking long runs, playing up top and being a presence in the attack. You wouldn't see that from Uruguay. Sometimes they got disorganized. That was the moment to bring Mohamed Salah onto the field because he gives you a change of pace. So clearly, he was not right to play. I just don't see how, if you're not right to play now, you're all of a sudden touched by a miracle and you're able to play and able to make an impact. It's one thing to be on the field, but then make an impact for Egypt. I don't think, I've been saying it all along, I don't think he will trust his body to do the things that he was able to do with Liverpool, with Egypt in this tournament.
They have it all to do. When you take a look at the group, 3 points behind, you've got to win against Russia and Saudi Arabia. Are you confident that they can do it?
Who?
Egypt.
No. I always thought it was going to be a dogfight between them and Russia.
But you picked them.
Yeah, I'm not confident they're going to do it because they're not a great side, but neither are Russia. I think that was sort of papered over a bit by how bad Saudi Arabia were. I think Egypt, grinding it out for as long as they did without Mo Salah against a good Uruguayan side, although they missed chances, shows that they've at least got something. But the whole Salah thing for me is I can't get my head around. He cannot do what he's doing and did do for Egypt in the next 2 games that he did for Liverpool. The only issue I see is if somebody absolutely smashes into him and he goes to ground.
Right.
Now, he's got to get that out of his head. And if that's a problem for him, don't play.
Is he bottling it?
Not if he plays the next 2 games.
Right.
And he does well and they win. But the question is he prepared to take a potential injury to play in the World Cup for his country? Right? Because he can play. It's whether or not the shoulder's going to stand up to somebody smashing into him. That's a risk I would take, just to play in the damn thing.
Certainly would grab the headlines if Australia could get the win against France. The bookies have them as 10-1 outsiders. France 4-1 on. If you're Australia, Craig, how do you approach this game?
It's quite simple. You've got to be just organised. You sit in, you try and soak up, and you can only hit on the counter-attack. We saw, for those that watched, France play, which was basically an under-23 USA side in Paris last weekend, or whenever it was, just over a week ago. That's what they did. They got themselves a draw. France weren't at the best, but they just sat in, and I don't see Australia been able to do any different because France will dominate the possession. They have a couple of good players in the middle of the park, and Aaron Moy and Tom Rodgett, who plays his football at Celtic. But this is a side that isn't going to see much of the ball.
Going for the win is obviously media rhetoric.
Of course it is. I mean, they've just got to try and defend as well as they can. I wouldn't say they've got to drop all the way back in, but they've got to try and win the ball in the right sort of areas, in midfield. But they can't go and press the ball high up the field, and they can't send too many men forward. They're going to rely on the counter-attack. Leckie, who can run with the ball. We saw that at the last World Cup, but I can't see too much happening for Australia. France are too dominant, too many quality players, and they'll have enough creativity in the top third of the field to break them open.
It's nothing to lose, Tag. Does that help players?
No, because it doesn't change who you're playing against. It doesn't change the quality of the opponent. And it doesn't change the quality of your players either. What I would say is that they have to do all the things that this guy's just mentioned, and then they have to hope that France has a bad game, that they're frustrated, then they start finger pointing, that perhaps you have games that are frustrated, players that are frustrated because of the performance individually and as a group. And then from there, maybe you get a set piece, maybe you get something, and then France is chasing the game. Maybe that gives you an opportunity. And on top of all that, prayer will help as well.
Prayer?
That's it. Because I just don't think that they're good enough to compete. You know, you can set up the team defensively, you can set up for the counter and all those things, but it doesn't change the quality of the team that you're playing against.
What's the score?
I think France wins it 2-0.
Yeah, I'm going by France by a couple.
3-0, France.
Who cares what you think? I care about R2-D2, the psychic sausage dog, who was given a piece of Australian meat and a bit of French brie, and was asked to, well, basically make his decision. First time, the best of 3 this is, by the way. You enter the brie.
Okay.
And, it's the brie again. So the sausage dog agrees with you that France will beat Australia in his fancy time.
What about the bow tie?
It is. Now, of course, for Australia, they'll be looking to get some points from Peru and Denmark. Their second and third matches. Those two teams face off as well tomorrow. Denmark.
Being is predicting who's going to win. Now they'll start coming to me for football predictions. Great.
When he couldn't run past people anymore with the ball, he said, I'm going to be the best goal scorer I can possibly be. Every time the ball comes into the box, I'm going to be in the right sort of areas. I'm going to work the defenders. He is the best I've seen in recent times at making runs for defenders, taking defenders away, and then finding the space in the box. Every time the ball went wide, you could tell the 2 centre-halves were having a major panic where Ronaldo was. And you have to admire him for changing his game so that he could stay on top of the world alongside Messi.
You have to say Zidane did him a huge turn as well, didn't he? I'm sure they discussed it, you know, however long ago it was, when he said, look, it's not good having you trying to be running up and back, you know, covering full-backs and, you know, getting forward. So we need to tailor your game. And both of them saw it. They did it brilliantly, and Benzema was coming off the bench and supporting, and he had a great supporting act. But it's absolutely what you need as a player. When you get to that age, you've got to change your game. He's played. I mean, him and Messi play a hell of a lot of football. You don't hear much about, you know, red zones and lactic acid and resting with these guys. These play all the time when fit. So, absolutely.
And sometimes
fantastic.
we're not fit, as we saw with Ronaldo in the last World Cup. When he didn't look, he looked as though, at that point, you say he's over the hill. But he's proved to everybody that he's still a top-class player.
He might have lost a step. Maybe not the same player that he was 5 years ago. Maybe doesn't have that speed. But the one thing that he's always had is personality in this sort of moment.
And belief in himself.
Yeah, belief in himself. And the fact that he puts the ball down and he in his mind is thinking, this is going the back of the net. We're all thinking, man, we've seen this picture before. This is going right in this.
Wouldn't it have been great if Guerrero, the left back, had just tried to bend it around the wall?
We're thinking he's going to hit this in the wall because we've seen it happen too. Perfection in the execution, and there is something about the personality trait of Cristiano Ronaldo to want to be the guy with the ball at his feet in a key moment. Not every player has that, and there are players that have that but don't quite have the game to match it up. He put those things together, perfection.
He couldn't wait for this to happen today.
Yeah.
He couldn't wait. It's such a big occasion for him. Playing Spain, all the headlines that they've had. He knows he's good enough. He's come off the back of the Champions League final where he was quiet. You got Gareth Bale scoring that fantastic goal, taking the headlines. Then we got all the nonsense with Karius. And then the arguments with Sergio Ramos. Then Firmino and all the Brazilians chip in. And nobody's talking really about Ronnie until this moment when he just says, hey, I'm back, I'm the man. Here you are, hat-trick to kick off the World Cup. Absolutely.
And the reports of taxes and fines coming out of Spain. Here are your taxes. Here are your fines. Have some of that.
It's an interesting point, isn't it, that Craig brings up, in the fact we talk, Raf, a lot about Neymar and a lot about Messi going into this World Cup. Ronaldo didn't really come into the conversation that much.
No, you're right, and I think that's because in the Champions League final he didn't really feature. His thunder was stolen to a certain extent, and also this Portugal, I think, looked like they almost found a way to not rely on him so much playing Andre Silva next to him. But of course tonight he was up there by himself and everything went through him, and I thought his pace and his transition game that he brought, that was quite something that surprised me, because this is a guy, as we said and as you said, who is not the quickest anymore, but he looked really, really sharp, and every time he ran at those Spanish defenders, you could see and you could feel something was going to happen. And I just wanted to make the quick point. This is a day, I think Ali alluded to it, this is a day that started with a suspended prison sentence and an 18.8 million euro fine. Even if you're Cristiano Ronaldo, that's got to hurt, and that's got to put you under some pressure. But
welcome into Extra Time. Oh, you were at the gym this morning, Robert, with Max Bretos.
I was, yeah.
Wow, what a moment that was.
I blew him out the gym. He was,
Oh, yeah?
he was puffing in a pant.
You're a bit of a rower, aren't you, Robert?
Normally, but I wasn't that. I was on the cross trainer today.
What's your rowing record?
2,000 metres, which is the distance everybody does.
Okay.
6:57 is my best.
Oh, wow.
He was a rower. He was a
I've
rower.
seen you rowing.
I don't do it much.
No.
Used to do.
6:34.
Oh, boom.
What?
Well,
I'm talking about since I took it up again 5 years ago.
No. That 6:34 when I was rehabbing when I was 32.
Okay.
So it was a while ago. But I tell you that 2,000 metres is.
That's a killer, isn't it?
No, tough, isn't it?
It's tough. Yep. When you get to about 1,000 and the lactic starts kicking in.
Yeah.
You know, you've got 1,000 left.
Welcome to people who are watching on ESPN Plus, by the way.
Oh, hello.
Extra Time with you. All the questions about Cristiano Ronaldo and why you all hate him, basically. Will you guys admit Ronaldo is better than Messi and stop hating?
When are we hating on Ronaldo?
Because you say that Messi's the GOAT.
It's a personal choice and taste, and yes, I like Lionel Messi better than what I like Cristiano Ronaldo as a player. But that's my personal opinion. That's my personal choice. And oh, by the way, it's not like I'm just picking some guy, any random guy from the street. It's Lionel Messi we're talking about.
Yeah. Why do you hate Ronaldo?
I certainly don't hate him. If I had one pick between Messi and Ronaldo, and who could you have at your club, it would be Messi, I'm afraid, because I think he can run with the ball, he can do so much more than Ronaldo. Ronaldo's a great goal scorer these days. Messi can do more. Oh, yes.
What is Florentino Perez thinking right now? Keep Ronaldo and look for a keeper other than David De Gea?
What is he thinking right now? He's like, yeah.
He's thinking, give us a fax machine.
Well, is that suggesting that David De Gea is now some god-awful goalkeeper?
Because it seems to be it.
Because the poor fella made a mistake.
Oh, Karius makes a mistake, you kill him.
He's made a lot of mistakes over the last year, Karius.
Many.
Hold on, but what is he thinking? Like, what do you think Florentino Perez is doing while he's watching the Spanish national team game? Is he rooting against Spain?
I don't know. Who? If you were Lopetegui, would you want Spain to win or not?
That's what I'm saying.
No.
No? You'd want them to fail miserably?
Public face of Lopetegui will be, oh yeah.
Yeah, behind the scenes when
Behind the scenes, you'd be like, yeah!
He wants them to lose.
Ronaldo's his boy.
He wants them to lose.
He was probably sitting with a Cristiano Ronaldo top on.
Probably.
They couldn't do without me. That's what he wants them to say.
Many ESPN FC pundits did not think Ronaldo deserved a spot in your World Cup best 11. Can you explain yourselves now? It's inconceivable, and the audience deserves an explanation.
Right, I'll give the explanation. I put him in at centre forward, and we were told by however it was being worked, that you couldn't play him at centre forward. Where did he play today? Centre forward, out and out centre forward.
Then you could have Messi, Neymar, Ronaldo, and you ditched him.
Because I don't think he's good out on the left wing or the right wing.
The formation is irrelevant.
I would have him as a centre forward, but you couldn't play him as a centre forward. And if you then put him in a wide area, he's not so good.
Hold on, why couldn't you play him as a centre forward?
Because you couldn't pick Neymar, who I'd play on the left-hand side, and I picked Messi on the right-hand side, so it meant you couldn't have Ronaldo through the middle. That's what the rule said.
According to the FC.
He wasn't in the strikers.
Oh, I see.
See?
All right.
But I picked him as the centre forward because he showed today he's a great centre forward.
So because we have lack of flexibility in our editorial department, we cannot put Ronaldo. No. Okay, well that's a new excuse not to include.
I didn't know
Ronaldo.
that because I didn't pick that team.
Would you play him on the left wing instead of Neymar?
No, I will play Neymar right now, but I would play Ronaldo on my team. I will put him on my team because he can do the sort of thing he did today.
But not at centre forward. You couldn't put him at centre forward. He wasn't down as a.
I don't care what they say. I put him on my team. It's my team. It's not their team.
It was the
my
machine.
team.
It was the machine that wouldn't let you do it.
Yeah, so that's why you put Luis Suarez.
Hey,
that's why.
He played well today. Luis Suarez was good today.
That was why I didn't do it.
I'm sure that and many other reasons. Let's face it.
I didn't do it because I couldn't put Ronaldo there. The machine wouldn't let me, so I said, I'm not doing it.
Machine?
The internet. Why are people so paranoid?
Well, it continues. I guess Ronaldo hasn't lost a step after all, right, guys?
He has lost a step. That's why he's playing through the middle.
Correct. Cristiano Ronaldo had a tremendous game. Cristiano Ronaldo had a tremendous season. He can score goal with the best of them. I will play him down the middle. I believe Stuart would play him down the middle, and I believe Craig would do the same. You would have him in your team, not just out wide, because indeed he has lost a step.
I love how people...
The first goal, or the penalty, was a bit of the old Ronaldo. A little step over, went past his man. Little dive as well, but it was a penalty.
I love it was people on social media after the game saying, well, that's it, over to you, Lionel. Over to you, Messi, now, because you know you're up against it now. I think he's got enough in his play. Rather than worrying about Ronaldo, I think he's got maybe millions and millions of Argentinians.
Yes.
And maybe some not as good teammates to worry about, rather than scoring a hat-trick.
It would be helpful if he scored a hat-trick, though.
Who are they playing tomorrow, Argentina?
Iceland.
Oh, there we go. We'll be talking about that on tomorrow's show. You can join us.
The way to keep up there, Dan.
There you go. That's a game.